We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we got another Book of Boba discussion for you. This is chapter 4 in the series, so the 4th episode. I think we're about halfway there. I think the rumor was 7 or 8 episodes. So we're starting to get to that point where, the series really has to start to get cooking. And this episode, it did. So we're very excited to discuss the episode here today. As you can see, we got Tony back with us. We are very happy to have Tony with us, and then my wife Sarah as well. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about what happened in this episode, and then we'll get into our thoughts about the individual stuff. So the previous episode, we had seen a little bit of Boba's tribe of Tusken Raiders got wiped out by the biker gang. And so we kind of kick off this episode with Boba trying to seek out where these biker gang people are from. And he sees that they are affiliated with Jabba's palace. And he kind of wonders about, taking them out. But he's only one guy. So Boba has the issue with numbers there. So Boba kind of is, wandering around. He has a campfire set up. And he kind of looks off in the distance and he sees like this flare going on. So he goes to investigate it. And this is when, from Mandalorian, we saw at the end of an episode where these 2 feet were walking up to somebody. And we find out that those 2 feet were, in fact, Boba Fett. This is the scene where he finds Fennec dead. And then he picks up Fennec and he wants to figure out a way to save her life. So this is how we connect to the like android people from an episode or 2 ago. I think last episode maybe, from Book of Boba. And Boba takes Fennec to this shop, so to speak, and has the guy retool her so that she can actually live. And she becomes this android type person. One of the interesting things about that is that she basically had her stomach retooled, and Boba was wondering about covering it up, but they find the mechanics as a sign of like beauty and craftsmanship. So they prefer to have it revealed. I think later on, though, Fennec is going to end up covering it up, because when we saw her in Mando season 2, she kind of like pulled back her clothing so that Boba could see that Mando could see that she was bionic. She was an android.
Because CGI is expensive.
Yes, it is very expensive. So then we kind of get this campfire scene with Fennec and Boba as Fennec is waking up. She's kind of freaking out, like, how did I get here? What's going on? And, Boba explains, what he did for her. She believes that he's dead because she heard that Boba Fett was a dead man. And, obviously he's not. He's there in the flesh. So he's kind of explaining his background a little bit, that he is, in fact, not left for dead in the sands of Tatooine, as he said it. But they both kind of agree to work together. It's kind of like a debt that Fennec has to Boba. So they go to investigate the palace. I like to reference it as Jabba's palace, but we'll call it Bib Fortuna's palace at this point. But Fennec uses this new thing that we haven't really seen before in Star Wars, at least not to this degree. She pulls out this little droid from her...
from the butt of her gun.
Yeah, I don't know if I was going to call it a rifle or a sniper rifle, but it's very similar to the droids that Darth Maul used in episode 1, except for his were huge and hers is itty bitty like a golf ball. And this droid is like zooming around Jabba's palace, taking pictures and whatnot of the inside, so that eventually when it comes back to Boba and Fennec, it can map out everything for them, and they can kind of strategically plan how they want to go about going into the palace and taking what they need. And what they need in this mission in particular, because this mission was not to take out the biker group, this mission was to get back Boba's ship, known as the Slave One. I know Disney is trying to get rid of that, but I'm going to stick to it with the name there. So they're heading into the palace, and they're sneaking around, and we see a couple of droids that are pretty interesting. One of them that they come across is the torture droid from Return of the Jedi. We saw a little bit when 3PO and R2 first got to the palace. This droid was like putting not hot pads, like
he was branding one of the other droid's feet.
He was doing some really, really bad stuff to the droid, and we hear him screaming. But that guy is still around, only very, very shortly, because as soon as Boba shows up, he takes him out and knocks him to the ground. I assume he's toast based on the hit, but he's a droid. He can be fixed. One kind of callback to the Star Wars movies is the next droid that we see, which is the chef. I believe he had 8 arms when he was cooking food, and when Boba went to prepare to fight him, he raised all 8 arms and was spinning them like Grievous did when he was about to fight Kenobi. So that was kind of a small callback there to General Grievous. So they make their way through the palace and eventually find the Slave One. It's exactly where he had left it, way back in Return of the Jedi. It hasn't been moved. Luckily, though, when Boba runs in there as they're getting ambushed by the people of the palace, it turns on and it's good to go. Fennec is fighting on the outside of the ship. She's trying to delay the people from coming into the ship as Boba is trying to get everything up and going. But they have one problem. They can't get out because it's really, really dark and the door's shut. So Boba tries to maneuver the ship and turn it around, and as he's doing that, he's taking out walls of the palace, and eventually he gets it so that he can face and get out, but once again, the door's shut. So as Fennec is fighting these people, she hops on the Slave One and she shoots on the right side. The way the door works is a counterweight, and so she shoots the weight and the weight falls off and the door flies open. And when this happens, I absolutely love that shot. It's kind of like I know what word I want to use, but I'm not going to use it. She looks very cool when she does it, so to speak. The doors of the Slave One shut, and she's kind of like, yeah, I'm hot stuff, from taking out all those guards. So they take off, and basically Fennec, and she's talking to Boba, and she's kind of saying, Boba is telling her, your job is done. What would you like to do? Where do you want me to drop you off? And they kind of come to a slight agreement a little later on that they're just going to kind of chill. They're going to hang out together. And one thing that Boba mentions to her is that he has some unfinished business on Tatooine. And we get this very cool scene where we see the biker gang, traveling across the Dune Sea. And out of nowhere, we see this small dot eventually become very, very huge. And the ship is just blasting away the biker gang. He absolutely fries them. At one point, he uses a torpedo. So he is just no mercy when he's taking out these guys. So he takes care of the biker gang. And then there's one other thing that Boba wants before he leaves Tatooine. He has the ship, and he does not have his armor. So he's looking for his specific Boba Fett armor. And the last place that he can remember that the armor is at is the Sarlacc pit. So he goes to the Sarlacc pit, and he does something interesting that we really haven't seen before. He kind of makes that ship as if it's like a human, trying to peek in there on the Sarlacc pit. He tells Fennec to hold on because they're going horizontal, and he's peeking in the Sarlacc pit, and he's using a light. And I still remember when we watched the episode, Sarah was like, oh boy, here comes a jump scare, because it's just dark and creepy, and there's really nothing going on in the pit as they're looking, but the silence just kind of indicates that, bam, something's going to come. And in fact, the Sarlacc wakes up and tries to attack the ship. Boba doesn't really know how to maneuver to, get out of it. But Fennec looks up and she sees a switch. And she actually has to unbuckle herself. That way she can go up to the switch. But that switch is for a seismic charge. And so she pushes that button and it kind of trickles out of the ship. Thank goodness gravity took it just in time to get all the way down there. Because, what would have happened if it actually didn't fall quick enough? But the seismic charge falls into the Sarlacc, into the mouth, and the Sarlacc eats it. And then we, hear the silence and then the boom of the seismic charge, and it kills the Sarlacc. So they're able to get away. From there, we see Boba coming out of the Sarlacc pit as if he had gone inside and looked around. They kind of, skip over that because we've seen inside the Sarlacc pit already. We didn't really need an extra scene there. But he can't find his armor. Obviously, us as the viewers, we know the Jawas took it. Plot twist. But Boba doesn't. And so that kind of sets up, what happens in Mando season 2. From there, let's see. From there, I forgot because this is where they like skip ahead, like insanely skip ahead. So from the Sarlacc pit, we know that he can't find his armor, and then it skips to the clip that was at the end of Mando season 2, where he kills Bib Fortuna and takes the throne, and then we can kind of assume that is where, the beginning of this show starts, if that makes sense. So it goes up to where Mando left off, and then we know what happens in between there. So then we're in present day, and one thing that's interesting is Boba gets out of the bacta tank, and the droid says you're fully recovered, and I want to talk about that after we're done with this recap, what that actually means. But Boba's looking great. He looks like he has no scarring, no nothing. Fennec mentions, the internal scars, but physically, it looks like Tamora, the actor, has no makeup on. Looks like he's just there. So they decide to go down to the, like, I don't know if I'd call it a bar, but it's kind of like a casino, a little bit in one, where the Twi'lek was. We saw it in episode 1. That's where he went to talk to her and say, hey, I'm here to protect you. Goes down there, and Chrysanthemum is down there. He's chilling. He's drinking. He's upset with himself, all the stuff that's happened to him. And he creates a riot in this place. He's taking out the Trandoshans that are gambling and having a great time.
They were just too happy.
Yeah, they were just having too much of a good time. And the leader of the owner of the group, I believe she's the owner, she comes out and she's trying to calm down Chrysanthemum and saying, if you stop this, I'll wipe off your tab. And he doesn't care. We actually see, the arm fall to the ground because we know Wookiees can rip someone's arm off. So they show this in this episode. But basically, this was all to set up this 2-second clip of Boba saying, hey, you need a job. And then he starts working for Boba. And then where we kind of close out the episode is Boba is talking to the people of the area, basically, the people that own or rule the different sections of the land. And he's basically saying, hey, the Pikes are coming. Can I count on you when, things hit the fan? And there's a little bit of a back and forth. They get a little bit of encouragement from the Rancor when it tells them, hey, you better, stick with Boba, and it scares them. But ultimately, it seems like they're going to be working with Boba. I feel there's a little bit of uncertainty there. They could double cross, but as of right now,
they promised that they would not side with the Pikes. They wouldn't necessarily fight with him, but they also wouldn't align with the Pikes.
Right. So it's kind of a what's going to happen here situation.
Shaky alliance.
But as they're leaving, so this is the big cliffhanger that we got this episode. And, if you haven't seen season 1 or 2 of Mando, maybe you didn't catch this, or if you haven't seen the commercials, because it's pretty clear what it's from. But Fennec and Bulba are talking about, we're about to go to war with these Pikes. We need muscle. And Fennec mentions you can buy muscle, and then we hear the Mandalorian theme song play. So this is kind of alluding to, hey, you know a guy, why don't you go talk to him? Not to mention that at this point, Boba has the dark saber, so he could
No,
have,
not
or
Boba.
not Boba, sorry, Mando has the dark saber. Thank you, and he can actually, have a whole bunch of Mandalorians show up and help out in this battle. I'm going to leave it there because there's something else I want to speculate about what could happen. But as far as the episode goes, that's where we can leave off. Tony, what are your thoughts on the episode?
Well, a couple things to start off with. I feel like I need to be careful what I say because I literally have Darth Vader staring at me for this background. But full disclosure, when I watched this episode, because I'm an adult with responsibilities and things like that, I sort of watched this episode on my phone as I did chores. So I'm going to be just completely honest with that. So like I did dishes and watched it, and then I like brushed my teeth while I watched it. So full honesty there. I still, got the gist of it and everything. But whatever my thoughts are on the episode, it all became irrelevant once the Mandalorian theme hit. And I was like, oh man, Mando's about to mess up some pikes, and this is going to be super entertaining, and I'm here for it. I was literally brushing my teeth, and then I heard the theme, and I was just like, so, and then the awesome Boba Fett theme hit for the credits, and it got me all pumped up and fired up. But no, I mean, it was another entertaining, solid episode that I enjoyed. Last week we kind of started talking about kind of some of the discourse with this episode and things like that. And I feel like having thought about, what we talked about and everything, I feel like this show is unfortunately getting caught with the people with the what do I want to say, the sort of discourse that connects to people are assessing it on what they want the show to be versus what it actually is. You know what I mean? And I have to say, as a film fan, that is incredibly I'll be nice here, that is kind of frustrating for me. I don't like when those sorts of conversations come up, because I think what people wanted was like Boba Fett being John Wick, basically.
Yeah.
And what we're getting is a slow-paced, methodical, introspective character study of Boba Fett, which to me, I'm here for. I love it. I think there's a lot of, deep, kind of, exploring his backstory, and I love the line where he comes out of the back to tank fully healed, and they mention the internal scars. So I kind of think of him reliving his memories as, he's kind of thinking through his, we'll say trauma to heal himself internally as well as externally. And I think that's a very powerful thing. I've been listening to, my movie pundits as I do, and a few of them have said that they find the backstory stuff useless and a waste of time. And I couldn't disagree more, because what I just said, I think that's all part of his journey, his internal journey as a character and stuff like that. So, it's like, this is pulpy Star Wars fun. I mean, the show isn't The Wire. It's not Game of Thrones. It's, it's like people are evaluating it like way up here. And not just, and I don't mean that as in, if it's not that, it's bad, because not every show can be up here, or else that high level devoids itself of meaning. But it's a fun, entertaining trip into the Star Wars world, and I find it myself. I find fascinating to go on this journey with Boba and explore, who he is, and him reconciling with his past, and and I do like how we sort of have some connective tissue now of why exactly he wants to take over the underworld so he can kind of control, who he hires and stuff like that, so that further innocents don't have to die. So yeah, I again, like we talked about last week, is it a perfect show? No. Is the screen time used as efficiently as it could be? Maybe not. But I don't. But it's still, to me, it's still entertaining and interesting and thought provoking and stuff like that. The one just super super minor nitpick that I'll have with this episode, and it's really not a big deal, and the jury's kind of still out on it. It's just something that popped into my mind. Is the scene where Boba takes Fennec to get repaired, or whatever you want to say, and that was very much a trip into the cyberpunk subgenre of sci-fi, and I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it. I don't know if that aesthetic fits with Star Wars, because Star Wars is more of like science fantasy, and cyberpunk is more closely aligned to traditional science fiction. So I don't know if those two subgenres can mix, but like I said, not really a big deal. It wasn't, it was just a scene. It's fine. So yeah, so that's pretty much my thought. I mean, I'm still enjoying this show. I get it's not what people expected, but who cares? That's what it is, not what you want it to be.
Yeah, to speak to a couple of your points, I will say I do feel kind of weird about the cyberpunk thing as well. But
I feel like the only reason why that felt normal or expected, I guess, because we saw the moped gang in the last episode or two. And if we hadn't seen that before, it kind of makes you think, like, when he told Fennec, I took you to a mod parlor, how did she even know what that is? Because it's not something that's widely discussed, at least in the Star Wars universe so far. So for us as a viewer, if we were Fennec and wouldn't that have been the first time she was hearing about something like that? It just seemed a little like they were trying too hard to make it seem like it was normal, I guess.
I mean, you could be right, because I was thinking like, well, we saw it in the last episode, but last episode when we saw it was in the future and this is in the past. So I don't know.
Sorry. One other point I will say, sorry, not to cut you off, is that, again, not a major thing. It didn't take me out really a whole lot. Is that Fennec cast some level of doubt of the biker gang actually being behind the slaughter of the Tusken Raiders, and that didn't seem to deter Boba at all. He still wrecked shop, which, like you mentioned, that sequence, I mean, that is some beautiful cinematography. I dug it. I was kind of, again, doing dishes, so I was kind of looking up and down, but I got the whole, idea. And so they spent screen time for being like, was it really the biker gang? And then literally in the next scene, it's just chaos. So, but like I said, minor things. It didn't really take me out at all. Just something to point out.
I almost feel like that's the style of Boba Fett that people have been wanting. You talk about people's expectations.
I would agree.
Versus what we're getting. I know I've seen a meme not too long ago that was, what we thought the show would be, and it showed him with like the original bounty hunters, which I think one was a Transdoshan. Bosk, yeah. So like it showed him with Bosk and all these other bounty hunters, and then what we got, and it was a picture of Boba with the moped mod gang, right? So obviously those are two different things there. So I wonder if that's partially what that was for, was just kind of showing that he is still tough and can kick butt when he needs to. And, I think the big thing with that in those expectation levels is that we're in a totally different time, decade or era, if you will, than when he was a bounty hunter. This isn't necessarily his origin story. This is kind of continuing on from Mandalorian, right? And we knew that before watching the show. So I think that might be why there's a mismatch between some of the general public's expectations versus, say, our group's expectations. You got to remember what time era you're in.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, to speak to another point that you made, Tony, about how some people are saying that the backstory is a waste of time. I feel like if we didn't get that, fans would riot because
Yeah, I
we
totally
want
agree.
what happened. We saw him, kicking butt in Mando season 2, and we know about the Sarlacc pit. But if we don't have the connecting pieces, I feel like that would have caused more of an issue than. Uh,
Yeah, I completely agree.
you know.
I completely agree.
What were your thoughts on the episode?
I liked the episode overall. Like I said, I thought it was kind of weird that Fennec seemed so not startled by the mod parlor, and she seemed to kind of understand what that meant, and maybe wasn't as freaked out as I would have been if I looked down and saw my stomach like that. Because I know for me personally, it would have been like, "Oh my God, what have you done?" She didn't really seem that phased, but
Could be a casual thing in their universe.
and maybe it is. I don't know. It's just for me as a Star Wars viewer, I haven't really seen that before. Besides the biker gang or the moped gang that we saw, which was in the future compared to this episode or that portion of the episode. But overall, I really liked it. I thought it was kind of neat seeing the little. So when they're trying to get his ship, and he talked about the torturing droid and then the chef droid. There was a third one that was almost kind of like a rabbit droid, if you will. I mean, he still walked like a normal droid, but he had rabbit ears. And so he actually hit like his deactivation switch so that Boba couldn't try to get any information or whatever out of him. I don't know what he hit that for. I guess maybe so he didn't see what was happening if he was about to be killed, which is kind of weird thinking about a droid feeling that way. But when we saw, I believe it's when we saw all the leaders of the surrounding areas having dinner above the Rancor pit, we saw that same droid in the background. And so I thought that was kind of neat to show that, like, they recovered what they could from what was already there at the palace. Thought that was kind of just a neat little cameo for that guy. I think that's about all I really wanted to touch on because Tony kind of touched on a few of the other good points too.
Nice. I liked the episode too. I thought it was. I thought it was a step up from last week. One thing that I don't mention that I intend to mention every week is that I love the music. I never thought I would enjoy someone yelling "Hey" at me so much, just like the Boba Fett theme song.
Yep.
Dude, it's so sick. I love that theme.
Yeah, that the composer for this show, he's got it.
Mm-hmm.
John Williams is like the Star Wars composer, but this guy has it too.
It was the same guy who did like Black Panther, right? That guy.
I don't know who did Black
I thought it was.
It's Ludwig something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the episode. It was good. I am very much looking forward to what we see in the next couple episodes. I'm not going to get my expectations too high for the next one because I remember when in Mando season 2, I want to say, there was a part where it was like go time, and then they had an episode that was in between what we were really looking for. So next week could be another preparation episode, for this big fight. But thinking of the big fight, when Fennec mentioned, we can buy muscle, before the theme song hit, which was only like a second or two, my first thought was the Bad Batch. Did you guys have any thoughts on?
I didn't think about that at all.
That hadn't even crossed my mind.
As if they're still around. I mean,
It was I don't know where they'd be at this point.
Quite a few years, but I could see
He was in the Bad Batch too.
Yeah, and who has the same genetic material as Bulba that's in the Bad Batch?
Mm-hmm.
Omega. And so that could be a way to connect that to it.
Dang, that'd be sick. Live action Bad Batch.
Yeah. So they have the pieces. They have Tamora, which could play all the clones, and then whoever they find for Omega. But um, did you guys have any theories or predictions who they could bring in?
Honestly, that hadn't even crossed my mind. I was more thinking on, hearing the Mandalorian song come back and it making me want to rewatch the portions of Mandalorian where we know now that it was Boba, like Boba's shoes walking up to Fennec and stuff like that, and seeing him get his armor again. So I don't really have an answer for your question.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean it's most likely going to be Mando, maybe some other Mandalorians, who knows?
Probably
But
Bo-Katan and stuff.
yeah, but just pure, like, I'm just gonna take off the logic hat real quick and just go into full blown. Wouldn't that be cool if there's I mean, the Bad Batch, that's a really good suggestion. I like that. The other one that came to mind is Han Solo.
Mm.
Um,
That would
maybe
be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, because I think if I remember correctly, I don't think it's canon anymore, but there was a comic where Boba and Han Solo worked together for a second. I could be wrong, but I thought that was the case. But yeah, get the dude that was in Solo and bring him in, and that would be cool. And then on that note, maybe shoot, can't think of his name. Cloud City.
Lando?
Yeah, Lando Calrissian. Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so there's him as well. So I mean, that would be kind of cool. But
What if, because you got me thinking now, what if, how I talked about the meme between the two different things, and one was the picture of all the bounty hunters and Bosk and whatnot? What if that's what she's referring to?
maybe.
Like bringing back Bosk and maybe some of those other
Yeah.
bounty hunters that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I would counter with is, I would think the Pikes have more money. So I wonder if they would pick up some of those guys. Because they're all for hire. They're not loyal.
Yeah.
What about the squad from Rebels? What's their
Ezra and
yeah? They have a name, like Ghost Squadron or whatever.
Oh yeah, Ghost Squadron. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, like an older version.
Yeah.
Although I guess we don't really know where Ezra is.
Well, there's been a lot of speculation that he could come in the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
So they could establish his character like they did with Boba and Mando. That could connect the pieces too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I thought Bad Batch right away was because how many episodes did they have where they went on missions for money?
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct.
That's why I was like,
They were, I mean, at the end of season 1 of Bad Batch, at least, they were still all together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they weren't disbanded.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first topic question I had for you. The other one that I had was when he got out of the Bacta tank and the droid said, congratulations, you're fully healed. Do you think that's like filling up your tank in your car where you're good to go? Or do you think it means like you don't have to get Bacta anymore?
It's probably the second one. It's probably he needed multiple set, because I think what he was really healing himself from primarily was the burns from being in the oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Sarlacc pit?
Huh?
Sarlacc pit?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, man. I swear I'm a Star Wars fan. I know Star Wars things. Yeah, so he was probably healing himself from those burns, which I did think about. I would buy the explanation that that's why he was taking it easy in combat, because he was in a treatment regimen of healing himself. So he had to, take it easy because if he was like almost healed and then, he got like a huge scar across his chest, he would be like, ah, dang it, now I got to do more sessions. So I would buy that personally. That makes sense to me. But yeah, it's probably, now he's fully healed. And if he gets seriously hurt again, he'll have to do another regiment.
Yeah. So what I was meaning was like, when he was in that fight earlier on, he was, he got punched a couple times and he was like, oh, gotta go to the back to tank. So I was saying, are we interpreting it as you're fully healed, as in he's ready to go, but when he gets messed up again, he can come right back? Or if he gets a cold, he can come right back? Or is it you don't have to come back at all into the tank unless you get really messed up? Like, is your body back to normal where if you get a cut, your body will process that as opposed to having to go to the tank, kind of a thing? Because I interpret it as he was done. We're not going to be getting these flashback scenes anymore because, we're back to the time frame that we all started with this show. So with them saying that right after that, I feel like that was kind of their indicator of, hey, the flashbacks are done. He's fully healed. We won't be seeing the back to tank anymore, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think narratively, yeah, you're spot on. So I think, like I said earlier, physically he's healed, and internally, maybe he's not fully healed internally, but that was kind of I mean, not only as audiences do we get the backstory, but like narratively, thematically, his healing sessions were to relive and rethink his past to heal the internal scars. And, I'm sure a lot of people can attest to, that doesn't make you, fully healed from your past traumas, but, at least helps. And I think that line of, when Fennec was like, congratulations, you're fully healed. And then he said something to the effect of like, yeah, but the internal scars take longer. I think that was a really powerful line because, he's a little better, kind of mentally, but, he's still not quite there. So I think the healing sessions worked on multiple levels. But yeah, I think, he's fully healed now, and, assuming he doesn't get seriously hurt again, I think he's essentially done. And like you said, narratively, that tells the audiences now, like, okay, flashback's done.
Yeah, I think so too. The last little two tidbits that are very small that I wanted to point out from the episode. I mentioned that I'm a sound person. When I hear things, I can make the connections. When they were breaking into the palace, Fennec was using like a laser cutter to cut through some of the metal, and the noise that was made from that happening was the same noise after Anakin sliced Dooku's head off. So we had that connection there. And then one other connection, and I think Tamora is nailing this every single time that he says the line, is when someone is asking who he is or he has to say his name, he's saying, I'm Boba Fett, but he has a way that he has a cadence to it. And it's the same one from when Boba was brought in during the holiday special, which was his first appearance. There's a way that the actor said it back then, and he's keeping that the same. So I really appreciate that from the little technical point of view.
Very cool.
Was there anything small or cool that you guys wanted to end with?
I will say this one small thing. Again, not a big thing, really didn't bother me. But when Boba Fett had that small droid pinned up against the wall by the throat, I think him, like in the cool, angry way, being like, I am Boba Fett. I thought that line probably could have been saved for a more formidable opponent, and not this like small, helpless droid. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, oh, yeah, you're scaring this poor little droid. Yeah, good job, buddy. Yeah.
It is funny how that droid had like the turn off button in the front, because IG-11, always had the bomb that would come out in the front when he wanted to power down, even though he would power down forever. But it's kind of a funny connection there.
Mhm.
Do you think that Maz is a mod person? Like, do you think that her eye covers are permanent modifications, like this mod parlor that we've seen?
Well, we've seen her take them off.
She can go out to the side, but do you think they're attached like she's a mod? Or do you think
What are you talking about?
Maz from The Force Awakens.
Oh, Maz. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Because we never seen her take them all the way off, and she doesn't take them off like a normal person. She just goes,
It could be. It'd be cool to think about.
Yeah, maybe there's
I
a
don't know.
connection there.
It just popped into my head, and I thought, I wonder.
Regardless, I think all three of us are very excited for what's to come.
Come on. It's gonna be Boba Fett and his allies going to war with the I mean, who doesn't want to see that? That sounds so cool. Like, I'm so ready for that big fight.
And let's not forget, he's going to ride in on a Rancor.
He's gonna ride in on a Rancor. Like, come on, Star Wars fandom. Like, what more do you want? Like, that's gonna be so cool. I am so here for that.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to, when we get to actually discuss what happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. There's a lot of
Heck yeah, man.
But yeah, if we are all set, we're going to wrap it up here. So that was our thoughts and discussion on episode 4. We got episode 5 coming out next week, so stay tuned for that. And the way you can make sure you are notified is by turning on those notifications. That way, when that video drops, you are alerted and you can watch and listen to our thoughts on the episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, drop us a like if you like this video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts from episode 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. Before we go, we're going to say thank you to Tony for being on the show with us.
Of course.
And also Sarah. And
yes, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
As always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.